Brilliant, brilliant greetings to you. Tiffany Carole here, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here with you right now and sharing what I'm about to share with you. Normally, I refer to these conglomerates of information and wisdom as a protocol because it has to do with key essential oils and key acupoints or body zones. But as I was sharing this protocol, this treatment with a group of beloved, bright individuals today, the word didn't feel quite right. I wanted to call it a ritual or a ceremony. And so I encourage you to think about this protocol that I'm about to share with you as a ritual, as a ceremony, as a practice of mindful self-anointing. Mindful self-anointing. And this is nice because it takes it out of the world of and there's absolutely nothing wrong with the clinical world, but I think it's usually fine if you're a fellow clinician and you hear me say protocol. But then for individuals who are not clinicians and they hear protocol, it instantly brings in this, oh, I hope I do it right in the right order. This is much more fluid and luscious and intuitive than it is rigid, boundaried, and sort of separate. Yeah. So think of this as a beautiful divine anointing, a ceremony or a ritual, if you will. And it consists of select oils with selected acupoints. And one of the points in particular connects us directly to also a primary chakra, to the root chakra. So the name of this beautiful self-anointing practice is Flourishing Foundation. Flourishing Foundation. And I want you to think for a minute, feel in your own experience what it is like to be the opposite of flourishing. When we feel disconnected, when we feel unresourced, when we feel unstable. Experiences of helplessness, experiences of hopelessness are certain aspects of experience that we might put in a category of the opposite of flourishing. When we think of flourishing, think of a flourishing plant. A flourishing plant clearly has what it needs to be itself. When you're flourishing, you have what you need. You have access to what you need to be yourself, to become yourself. That's the essence of this treatment. And what I love so much about this treatment is the timeliness of it. In this particular time of sort of the ground rumbling beneath us, a destabilization of structures within and without, to remind our body and our nervous system that being able to connect down and into the earth, being able to connect to your body and all of the brilliance, the universe of your physical body, and being able to connect up, we could say, into the higher dimensions and into higher guidance. Those capacities to connect are your birthright, my birthright, our birthright. Part of the process of being encultured or indoctrinated within culture includes within it, it's not limited to this, but it includes within it a systematic sort of stripping away of these, we could call them primal connectivity capacities. And so when we work with these plant spirits and they remind us of certain aspects of our own nature, they bring them online vibrationally. Not only do they remind us of certain capacities of our naturalness, but they help us to strengthen our capacity to connect up, to connect down, to connect in, and to connect out. Healthy connection, natural connection. Connection that is the natural result. It's connection that's the natural result of coming out of the truth of abundance. When we arise out of the truth of abundance, our connection and our quality of connection is very different than when we arise out of lack. And then we enter into some kind of power struggle, whether with ourselves or with another. Yeah. So, Flourishing Foundation is a beautiful ceremony, self-anointing treatment that you can do on yourself. You certainly can do it with clients or family members, although there's one point at the root chakra, which because of the location, you'll probably have someone do it on themselves. I'll share that with you briefly. But this is a treatment that could be done as much as every day right now if you're feeling really destabilized, shaky, if a lot of fear is coming up in your experience, anxiety, if you're having trouble sleeping, if you're having trouble finding your bearings, or if you just feel like you know, what I've been hearing from a lot of my clients is they're like, I don't know what's up with my navigational system. It's hard to kind of orient myself right now. If you can relate to any of those, then you could use support with any of those. What I'd say is try doing it once a day for 3 days, just to get some momentum going with this Flourishing Foundation, to really activate it. And then you can see if you need to continue or want to continue for more days. I would say you could go up to 10 days. It's such a powerful treatment. I don't think you'll really need it past 10 days, but you might find that every time you get your cues for knowing that you are off from your center, from your grounded, connected center, go to this treatment. Also, if you're feeling, if you're having experiences of being basically of lack consciousness, not enough time, not enough money, not enough, if it feels like something's missing and you're having to grab for something, that's another indicator for this treatment. So certainly it's not a bad thing or an inappropriate thing to do it daily, but again, I don't think that you would need to do it daily past 10 days. And I think for a lot of you, even doing this once a week or once every 5 days would be profoundly supportive. Also, I wanted to let you know that if you really find a strong affinity in your own experience between one point and one oil, and you want to just do that as a standalone, as a reminder for this Flourishing Foundation energetic, certainly you can just extract that one point and oil combo that's really helpful for you right now. Yeah. Okay, so how I'm going to proceed is I'm going to talk about the oil, the point for each one, and then just go through one at a time. And I'll also show you the locations as I go through this. There's a couple of things that I want to say to begin with, which is, it has to do with technique. And the technique really it really does matter, because it makes a difference in how your physical body and your nervous system takes in and integrates what you're doing. So this is not an acupressure experience. So when you touch the point with the oil, you're not pressing hard. So if the skin is denting down, that would be more acupressure. It's just a light contact. So you're actually just resting. This isn't one of the points, but just for example's sake, you're just resting the finger on the point. Yeah? The other thing is that you want to hold with that resting pressure, you want to hold that point for up to 3 minutes. So anywhere from 1 to 3 minutes. And the more you do this, the more you'll get a feel for when the shift happens in your experience, when the shift happens. Because I generally say, hold it until you feel a shift. If you're too much in your mind and you're afraid you're going to miss the shift, then just hold it for 1.5 minutes. That's a good amount of time for the unfolding and the activation to happen. If you want to know more about the technique, more about oils on points, then I encourage you to check out my YouTube channel, which is Tiffany-Carole, Carole, and I have plenty of videos there about aroma point therapy. You can also check out my online academy, which is master-healer.teachable.com, master-healer.teachable.com, and I have all kinds of in-depth courses about using oils on points with specific themes, for example, pediatrics, teens, pregnancy. And if you love if you end up loving or appreciating or being drawn to how I'm about to describe the oils and their inner nature or their spirit nature, as well as the inner nature of the points, then you might enjoy the Healing Oil Collective, which is an online journey where you go deep with the plant spirits in this way and really get to know their essence and also how they interact with key acupoints. And that's for anyone. You don't have to be an acupuncturist. Okay. Flourishing Foundation, point and oil combination number 1. We're going to put neroli on point shenmin in the ear. And I'm going to do a screen share with you here so that you can see this point. Yeah, I believe you can see this now. Good. I'm making this clearer here. Okay. So this is point shenmin in the ear. And the name of this point means Spirit's Gate. It's a beautiful name. And it is relaxing, calming, and balancing. So it's a powerful point to actually balance right and left hemispheres of the brain. And even though everybody's experience is unique when they're holding an oil on this point, everyone that I've ever talked to has a net balancing effect. So if they're feeling anxious and up here, the energy will drop and they'll feel more grounded. If the energy is sinking and they're feeling depressed, they'll feel a lift and an expansion. That's part of the magic of the adaptogenic-like effect of this point. And with neroli, so my nickname for neroli, which really gives a strong transmission of the inner nature of this oil, and it's Angelics Incarnate. Angelics Incarnate. And neroli is very much about bringing what we might call our higher self energy or the higher dimensional energy, some people say higher vibrational energy, down in through the crown, into the deep to the third eye, into the pineal gland, and receiving that activation of higher vibrational energy into our physical form. And it doesn't just stop here. When you work with neroli, it actually infuses your entire physical body with what we might call angelic or higher dimensional energy. How you, if that languaging is not something that is helpful for you, then think about it as basically upping your vibration or upping your light, the amount of light that's in your physical body. The other beautiful thing about neroli is that it helps to transform, literally and energetically transform the impacts and the areas where we hold shame and where we hold guilt. So when we think about creating a flourishing foundation, it often becomes really important to move some of these stagnant energy pockets that are bound to shame and guilt dynamics. Because I don't know about you, but when I'm in a shame bomb, I refer to them as shame bombs now, when my system gets flooded with a shame bomb, or when I'm just entrenched in guilt-ridden thoughts, I am definitely not flourishing. It's quite the opposite. So this first combination is going to have the effect of net balancing, so opening you up to receive and to shift energy, and then bringing in the higher vibrational energy and starting to shift and transmute some of those hairballs of guilt and shame energy anywhere that they might exist within the physical body or within the psyche. Secondly, we go to bladder 10 with cedarwood. And actually, I was just thinking, I'm going to see if I didn't pre-pull up my bladder 10 picture. So I'm going to do that now. I think if I can do that quickly. Okay, now I'm thinking I'm going to pause this while I I'm going to pause this so you're not just with me while I'm searching for this point. One moment. Okay, I'm back with you. Actually, after all that, I didn't have a a professionally done picture of UB tin, urinary bladder tin, but you can very easily type it into a browser window and a picture will come up. But I'm going to describe it to you right now, and I want you to locate it on yourself. It's on the back of the neck, and if you find your skull bone, that's the occipital ridge. Usually feels good to have it rubbed. So you find your occipital ridge and you slide your fingers just below the bone. So you're in the fleshy part, but just below the bone, and you're on either side of what they call the transverse process of your vertebrae. So you know how vertebrae look like that, and there's like little things that stick out to the edge of your vertebrae that way, like that. So that's the transverse process of the vertebrae. So I'm on the outside of either of those, and there's actually a groove there in between two muscle attachment points. It's where if you have if you see a mommy kitty pick up a baby kitty, she'll grab the baby kitty right there. And there actually is something when we even touch right there at the neck, or when we're held by someone, when they hold their hands there, for example, in craniosacral therapy, it really sends a message to the body like, you're okay. You're okay. You got this. You're okay. You're safe. You're okay. You're okay. Deep message to the nervous system. When we think about cultivating a flourishing foundation, part of it for many of us is that we need to have a sense of safety within our nervous system. We might, with our conscious mind, think, yeah, I'm safe, everything's okay, there's nothing here actively harming me. But our nervous system might be, I'm not safe, it's not safe, I'm not safe, it's not safe, I'm not safe, it's not safe. When you touch cedarwood to this particular point, not only does your nervous system instantly get the message that it's safe and protected, but cedarwood itself as an oil, its inner nature, the name that I give it is the steady scaffolding of the internal city, the steady scaffolding of the internal city. And when you touch this point, which is called, by the way, celestial pillar, so that already has the imagery of structure and stability, but celestial from above, celestial pillar with the steady scaffolding of the internal city. Powerful, powerful combo for steadying you, for drawing you into your essence, into your core, your stable core of being, and reminding your body and your nervous system that you indeed have a steady scaffolding of your internal city. You have that within your psyche. Even if you've been damaged, traumatized, hurt, wounded, within your psyche exists a steady scaffolding. Within your body exists a steady scaffolding. Within your emotional body, as chaotic or seemingly out of control that it might be, there is a steady scaffolding. And this combination helps our body to find that by way of resonance. They hum each other in. Yeah. Okay, ready for the next one? I can feel the energy of that oil and that point just talking about it. It's quite something. The next point, CV1. And we're going to put vetiver, the restorative stabilizer, vetiver, the restorative stabilizer, on point CV, or conception vessel 1. And the name of that point, the translated name of that point, is the meeting of yin, the meeting of yin. And I'm going to say a little bit more about that point, but I want to show you a picture first. So let's see. Share. Yeah, good. So I think I'm just sharing my whole desktop here. This is CV1 on a male and a female, as you can see there. So it's the perineum. It's the point, if you're a man, underneath or between the scrotum and the anus, and for a woman, between the end of the vagina and the anus. this is also on the physical body. This is the place that we associate with the root chakra, or root energy center. So when I want to say a few things about vetiver, and then a few things about that point. So vetiver, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's distilled from the dried roots of vetiver grass. And vetiver grass grows up to 13 feet directly down into the soil. They actually, I live part-time in Sri Lanka, and all over that Southeast Asia area, you'll find vetiver planted on hillsides, especially where there's strong monsoon seasons, because it prevents soil erosion. Because if those roots are down and the rain starts coming down, you aren't going to see the mudslides and the landslides like you would if you didn't have the vetiver there. So when I work with vetiver in my clinical practice, professionally and also personally, the way that I think about it and the way that I witness it is that it prevents soul erosion. Vetiver prevents soul erosion. Isn't that extraordinary? And part of how we experience soul erosion, because we've all experienced it, is that when we are disconnected from our root chakra, or our root chakra is challenged, it's not flourishing, it's not active, or it's blown out, or it's overactive, which is also an option, then we basically aren't in a healthy connect, like central connect with ourself as a powerful autonomous being with agency. A powerful autonomous being with agency. Doesn't that sound good? So when we experience fear, now, of course, there's such a thing as productive fear. Thank God for fear. I'm talking about pathological, unproductive fear. When we are in those states, especially for prolonged periods of time, our root chakra is just whacked. We're not able to access that direct connect to ourselves as powerful, sovereign beings with agency. And so when that's the case, when we're not able to connect in that way, we basically become vacuous, or we have these sort of empty pockets, if you will, that can get, that within those can be inserted beliefs or ideas or doctrines or understandings that are actually disempowering ones, disempowering stories, disempowering images, disempowering thought forms. We become more susceptible to those when we're not connected down into the root, which is also connected into the earth, the wisdom of the earth, the wisdom of the bones, the wisdom of the minerals, the wisdom of microorganisms. This is first dimensional consciousness. This is our primordial wisdom, the wisdom that's the knowing in your bones. The root chakra helps you connect to that. So the more that we exercise and practice that connect, the more we fill ourselves out, the more we occupy our space, the more we know ourselves as sovereign beings with power and agency in this experience. The more that we are able to cultivate that, because of course it's a process, of course we are all in some kind of process with it, the less soul erosion we experience, because we're aligned and our soul is fed, our soul is allowed to flourish. Yeah. So vetiver, reminding us of how to connect down and deep into the earth, stabilizing us, giving us that stabilizing energy and connecting it to our root chakra. It's a powerful, potent, awesome combination. Now, because the skin is it's a sensitive area, sensitive skin, I recommend diluting the vetiver to a 25% strength. So you can very easily take a little carrier oil, mix a drop of undiluted vetiver if it's undiluted, and just swirl it together, and then you can apply. If you want to be more exact about it, you can take a bottle and then mix in 75% carrier oil and 25% vetiver. I said that I was going to mention something about this point. The point is called the meeting of the yin, and it's actually where the central vessel connects with the governing vessel, which is the meridian that moves up your spine. So the governing vessel is relatively more yang, and the conception vessel or CV vessel is more yin. So the place of CV1 is where the GV and CV channel meet. So in a way, you can think of it as an activation and a joining of yin and yang, or of opposites of energy within you, and infusing that juncture point or that meeting point with the lusciousness, the softness, the moisture, the receptivity of yin, of our yin nature. Because again, it's the meeting of the primary yin energies, which consists of both our ability to connect, but our ability to also receive through that connection. When we say we connect, I put my hand out to connect with you and do a high five, but the ability to receive in the energy and really actually be in that connected moment is the yin aspect of the connect. The last thing that I'll say about this point is that it's what's called a ghost point in Chinese medicine. And the ghost points, there's a lot to say, and I'm not going to go down that path. If you're an acupuncturist, you can think about the power of this particular combo in relationship to it being a ghost point. But the main thing that I wanted to mention here is that I utilize the ghost points in my practice for basically evicting energy out of people that doesn't belong there. It's not serving them. It got inserted or acquired somewhere along the way, and it's not them. It doesn't want to be there anymore. So when I work with the ghost points, I think of them as I'm issuing an eviction notice. So when you're working with this point, CV1, we're activating the root chakra. We're drawing up that energy from the earth and connecting with the depth of that primordial knowing of our bones, the energy of first dimensional consciousness. And we're being filled, we could say we're being filled up with that, which is us, an aspect of us. And anything that is not us or not serving can simply drop out. Dense energy can drop out that taproot down into the earth for composting. Because within the realm of earth, when we're in our naturalness, everything serves a purpose. So we allow it to go and turn over and become compost. No? Next one, black spruce. Spirit gate is the name of the point, and the point is CV8. Black spruce on CV8, spirit gate. Hey, that rhymes. Black spruce on CV8, spirit gate. CV8, let's share it. Let me share a screenshot of this. And then pull it up here. Yeah, okay. This is CV8. It is right in the center of the belly button. Spirit gate is one translation. Spirit watchtower is another translation. And if you apply black spruce here, it's a good idea to dilute it again too, because this is a sensitive area, 25 or 50%. And the nickname, the sort of transmission name that I have for black spruce is the Ancient One. Black spruce is very powerful for connecting us to our ancestors, for connecting us to, I call them the bright ones, particularly our way, way back ancestors. And oftentimes when I'm working with black spruce and holding it anywhere, but in this case we're talking about CV8, so I'll put a little bit on my finger, hold it over that point, and my other hand over it. So it's like this, and like this. And then I actually take that moment and I close my eyes and I consciously connect with and honor and acknowledge my ancestors. And what I recommend is if you actually go further back than your known ancestors, the ones that you know the names of, the recently departed, because sometimes we're still in a little bit of an untangling around energies with anybody who might be more recently departed, whose name that you know. But when you imagine your way back ancestors, the bright ones, there's not necessarily any psychological hangups or perhaps even psychological stories about them. You just feel the energy and the connectivity of those beings, those beautiful beings that are within your lineage, that are within your bloodline. And generally I'll acknowledge, feel, see, and I say sometimes out loud that I'm acknowledging all the way back to the first peoples. All the way back to the first peoples. If you think about all the people on the planet, we all came from first peoples. Of course, there's lots of diluting and mixing of bloodlines and of territories, but if we go all the way back, we all trace our roots. We all go back to what we might call the first peoples. And when I acknowledge my connection to the first peoples, it also feels like it's very deeply healing and restoring many, 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 many years of broken connection that is part of the karma of colonialization. And to be able to have an act, a sacred act of anointing that honors and acknowledges and connects us to the first peoples, to the original peoples. There's a quality of restoration. There's a quality of sweetness and a quality of goodness to that practice that it's hard for me to put into words. And I encourage you to, if this speaks to you, to do this. It's very, very powerful. Okay, last but not least, here we go. We're going to end with point pericardium 7. And we're going to put jasmine on pericardium 7. My transmission name for jasmine is the restorer of trust, the restorer of trust. And the name for pericardium 7 is Great Mound. So I want to show you a picture of it. Let's see here. Yeah, good. So that's pericardium 7. It's hard to see from that picture, but it's that point is actually right between the tendons on your wrist and right on the wrist crease itself. Great mound. It's calming. It's a trust point and a source point for the pericardium meridian. So that point is bilateral, by the way, both sides, just like UB10 was both sides. Shenmen is both sides. And then the CV1 is, and CV8 are just down on the midline. So there's only one there. So with pericardium 7 and jasmine, this point is very much the emblem of trust, and it helps us to remember our capacity to healthfully trust. You know, trust is an interesting thing. And actually, if you look at through history, I love studying history, and I love studying cosmological stories from cultures. When you look at their kind of core story for where they came from, for how they came to exist as a people, every cosmological or origination story that I've ever encountered has, at its sort of crisis point or crux point, is an issue of betrayal. And let's just take the story of Adam and Eve, for example. I'm using that one because that's one that comes from my upbringing, growing up with a Christian upbringing. we studied that there was Adam and Eve, and Eve betrays Adam, and then Adam betrays God, or they both betray God, and then in a sense God betrays them by kicking them out of the Garden of Eden. So it's like a triple betrayal. So at the core of our story, our collective stories around the human experience, is the wound of betrayal. I believe it was Barbara Marx Hubbard who I heard this from, who said that the original wound in all of us is the wound of betrayal. And I really felt the truth of that in my being. So when we work with Jasmine, the restorer of trust, the medicine is so powerful. Because if there's even some measure of awareness or intentionality around directing this or allowing this medicine of Jasmine to go to the core wound of betrayal as it exists within your body, within your psyche, within your orientation with life, it so brilliantly and in such a grace-filled way goes in there and works its magic. I always say I owe my life to Jasmine. It's so deeply restored, very broken and very highly distorted relationship to trust, from myself to myself and from myself to other beings. So Jasmine on Pericardium 7 helps to restore our capacity to trust, which helps to bring us into a healthy heart space. When we're in a healthy heart space, we can be nourished by the heart field. So here we have this treatment that's resetting our nervous system, transforming the pockets of guilt and shame to make us more available to be occupied by the fullness of who we are from above and below. So from higher dimensions and what we might call lower dimensions, first dimensions, we become filled up as our own autonomous sovereign vessel, as being, as bridge between, quote, heaven and earth, and growing in our capacity to trust our ability to do this, to trust our ability to do this, and to trust that as we do this, we get to propagate and transmit this ability. Yeah. Every time you do this, which is occupy your space. Yeah. Every time you do this, not only are you giving, some people say we give permissions to others to do it, but you're actually transmitting the vibration of the truth of authenticity. And at a time when there's so much information that feels cloudy or murky or not quite right, we don't know what to trust, it is essential that we occupy our space and learn to trust our ability to know authenticity. When authenticity looks at us, when authenticity speaks to us, for us to be able to know that. Know it in others, know it in ourselves. Oh, so good. So please do this ceremonious, mindful anointing on yourself. And I would love to hear if you'd post in the comments what you experience with it. So much love. Many, many blessings. Until next time.